Hey friends, tonight we begin with the remarkable lives and quiet endurance of medieval peasants, those everyday souls who faced the longest, coldest nights with patience, ritual, and a simple kind of resilience. If you're new here, welcome to this soft space. Dim your lights, pull the blanket a little higher, and maybe light a small candle to flicker gently beside you. If you enjoy this kind of quiet company, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it genuinely brings you peace. And let me know in the comments, where in the world are you listening from, and what time is it for you right now? Now, let's settle in, take a long breath together, and slip back through time. It is the hour before dawn, not quite night, not yet morning. The kind of silence that is not empty, but full of waiting, full of breath, full of frost. Across a sleeping countryside, the wind whispers through bare branches, the kind that rattle dryly against each other like quiet wooden chimes. Above, the stars still reign, stubbornly bright in the ink-black sky. But far in the east, a faint silver veil begins to stretch across the horizon, tender and cold. Nestled into this frozen earth lies a small village, half buried in snow, half lost to darkness. The houses are little more than wooden boxes thatched with straw, roofs bowed under the weight of winter. Chimneys breathe faint trails of smoke into the crisp air, rising slowly, then disappearing. Inside one such cottage, nothing moves yet. The single room is cloaked in shadow. A hearth sits cold at the center, its stones still holding the last warmth from the evening's fire. Around the hearth, the family sleeps together, bundled under furs and woven blankets. Straw mattresses rustle softly with every shift of a limb. Breath clouds faintly in the air. There's a rhythm to this stillness. The soft inhale and exhale of sleepers, the occasional creak of a roof timber contracting in the cold. A snore from one corner, the whisper of the wind against the walls. In the far corner, a cradle, made from old willow branches, rocks gently. A baby, wrapped in linen and wool, murmurs once, then settles again. The mother does not stir. Her body, trained by years of waking and watching, remains still until it must rise. Above, the loft holds sacks of grain, bundles of dried herbs, and the preserved memory of last autumn's labor. The cold bites less here than outside, but still, it touches everything. Fingers and toes, even beneath blankets, know its presence. Time does not move quickly in this hour. It drips like water from a thawing icicle, measured not in minutes, but in small changes. A deepening of the wind, a shift in the shadows, a fading star. A rooster calls. Just once. Somewhere, across the village, another stirs in response. Then stillness again. In this suspended moment, life rests. Dreams linger like fog along the ceiling beams. Somewhere in the unconsciousness of sleep, people remember warmth, bread, songs. The candle on the hearth's edge flickers. It was left burning low through the night to keep away the worst of the darkness. Its wick is now half drowned in wax, barely holding a flame. It casts long shadows that stretch across the packed earth floor and up the wooden walls, dancing in slow rhythm. The cottage breathes. Outside, frost has painted the world in silence. Each blade of grass, each bare branch, each stone on the muddy path wears a glittering skin of ice. It is not harsh. It is quiet, like the pause between notes in a lullaby. In the field beyond the cottage, a low wall of stone marks the garden, now buried in snow. Beneath it, asleep in the soil, the seeds of spring wait patiently, blanketed by winter's weight. The barn creaks in the distance. Inside, animals shift in their stalls. A cow breathes heavy clouds into the air. Chickens cluck drowsily, sensing movement somewhere in the dark. Back inside, the fire is waking. One ember still alive begins to glow brighter. A soft crackle joins the stillness. Then another. Soon a small flame licks upward from the ash. The mother opens her eyes. She doesn't rise, not yet. She lies still, watching the baby's cradle rock faintly, feeling the warmth of her family close beside her. The fire will need tending soon, but the day has not begun, not really. She reaches slowly toward the coals, pulling a small stick of kindling from beside the hearth. With practiced motion, she stirs the embers gently, feeding the new flame. In the growing light, shapes emerge. A clay jug near the door, a bundle of dried nettle hung from a beam, a pair of boots placed neatly beside the wall. Another child shifts, waking. The youngest, perhaps 3 years old, blinks at the fire with red cheeks and tangled hair. The mother touches his back gently, guiding him closer to the warmth. There are no clocks here, no schedule. Time is felt, not measured. It arrives with light and fire, and leaves with shadow and cold. And so the house begins to wake. Not quickly, not noisily, but like snow melting from a rooftop, drip by drip. The father opens one eye, then the other. He stretches a stiff arm, then swings his legs slowly from under the blanket. The cold greets his feet like a kiss from winter herself. But he does not complain. This is the way. He moves toward the fire, adds a log, checks the kettle beside the hearth. There's no urgency. There's only rhythm. One breath, then another. The eldest child stirs next. She pulls a shawl around her shoulders and helps the youngest find his shoes. Quiet voices pass between them. Murmurs, not conversation. A soft good morning, a small laugh at bedmussed hair. The family begins its morning without clocks, without rush. Everything in this rhythm is inherited. The gestures, the order, the silences between them. Father opens the cottage door and steps into the cold. Steam rises from the barn roof. He walks slowly across the yard, his breath a thick cloud. The snow squeaks under his boots. Inside the barn, the animals blink at him. He begins to feed them. Hay for the cow, grain for the chickens. A ritual repeated through countless winters. Back in the cottage, the mother places a pot near the fire. She adds barley, a sliver of dried root, and a pinch of crushed herbs. The smell begins to rise, earthy, familiar, ancient. The children draw close again, waiting, their eyes sleepy and wide. And above them, a new day forms, not in bright flashes, but in layers of warmth, of breath, of tasks done together. The first light finally breaks through the shutters, and so the world begins again. The first true light of morning has arrived. It seeps through the wooden shutters in long golden slats, brushing across rough-hewn beams and woven blankets. The cottage, once a cradle of shadows and dreams, now begins to reveal its familiar textures. Grain in the wood, soot on the stone, the pale ash of a dwindled fire. Outside, the frost is loosening its grip. The frozen thatch of the roof glistens like a sugar crust, melting ever so slightly under the weight of daybreak. A bird, emboldened by the slow creep of warmth, flutters from branch to branch above the garden wall. It chirps once, not boldly, but tentatively, as if unsure whether the morning is quite ready yet. Inside, the children move a little more freely now. One wraps her shawl tighter and begins folding the night's bedding, smoothing the wool with careful hands. The youngest finds a wooden bowl and sits near the hearth, tracing patterns in the ash with a stick. These are not chores, not quite. They are inherited gestures, small contributions to the rhythm of survival. The mother ladles out the thick porridge she's prepared, one spoonful at a time, into wooden bowls. Steam curls into the air, carrying the faint scent of barley and dried herbs. There is no salt, no honey. Such luxuries are rare, but the warmth itself is a comfort. The food is not rich, but it is sustaining. Each child takes a bowl with both hands, sits on the ground, and eats in silence. The father returns from the barn, cheeks ruddy, boots damp with melted frost. He wipes his hands on the hem of his tunic and leans over the fire for a breath of heat. The bowl handed to him is taken without a word. Gratitude lives in silence here. On the table near the door, a small cloth pouch rests. Inside, a few coins, enough perhaps to trade for oil or new thread. It's tied shut with twine and placed with care beside a folded scrap of parchment bearing a charcoal mark. The tally of what's still owed to the reeve. No one speaks of it this morning. The mother braids her eldest daughter's hair, not tightly but with quiet purpose. The motion is slow and practiced, fingers working gently through knots. Outside, a few distant voices can be heard. Neighbors stirring, a door opening, the muffled bleat of a goat. The village is beginning to hum again, low and even. Sunlight catches on the frost outside, scattering it into 1,000 tiny diamonds. A small child presses his fingers to the glassless window, eyes wide at the sparkle. He says nothing. Awe is often silent in a world where wonder must be made from little. After the meal, the father gathers his tools, a spade, a worn leather sling for carrying kindling, and a small wooden pail. He kisses the top of his youngest child's head without bending low, just a touch, his beard brushing against a flaxen crown. Then he steps out into the morning. The path is muddy now, thawing slowly beneath his boots. Along the edge of the cottage wall, snow has begun to slide in soft sheets. He moves toward the edge of the nearby woods, where fallen branches lie half buried in frost. Each one he selects is tapped against a stone to test for rot, then added to his sling with care. The pail is for frozen water from the stream. The village well is a distance away, and sometimes it freezes shut. Across the narrow village lane, a neighbor, an older woman with a scarf wrapped tightly about her head, waves silently. She is feeding her hens, tossing feed in slow arcs that land on frozen straw. The birds cluck and peck dutifully. Her face is creased, her hands raw from cold, but her smile, brief and flickering like a flame, is full of knowing. Meanwhile, the mother begins sweeping the cottage floor. A birch broom, its bristles tied with twine, stirs the ash and dust into small piles. She moves methodically, guiding each pile toward the hearth. A tin bowl rests nearby for the ash. It will be mixed with fat later to make soap, or sprinkled outside the door to keep the mud at bay. The eldest child pulls on a rough woolen cloak and steps outside with a basket. She's going to the village commons to trade eggs. 3 brown ones, warm from the coop, rest in a straw-lined basket. In exchange, she hopes for wax or a spool of black thread. Her breath forms clouds in the air as she walks. The village square is little more than a widening of the lane, flanked by a few storage sheds and a bench made from a split tree trunk. A handful of villagers are already there, exchanging goods and greetings. Voices are low, conversations brief and practical. She hands the eggs to a broad-shouldered woman who runs a loom. In return, she's given a small stub of wax and a friendly squeeze of the arm. Barter here is built not only on value, but on memory, on favor, on need. Back at the cottage, the youngest is humming softly, a tune learned by ear, remembered by heart. He's wrapping a wool scrap around a carved stick, pretending it's a doll. The sound of the broom's bristles blends with his melody, and the house becomes its own quiet instrument. The father returns with kindling and water, shaking the last clumps of snow from his boots. His cloak is dusted with frost. He lays the branches beside the hearth and pours the water into a clay jug near the door. One branch he sets aside, splitting it with a small knife for later. Then he takes a seat and begins to carve. It's a small piece of wood, already half-shaped into a spoon. The strokes are slow, steady. Not art, but necessity. The family lost a spoon in the last frost when it cracked in 2. Another must be made. Each scrape of the knife adds to the music of mourning. Wood against blade, fire against stone, child against silence. Time continues to unfold, not in hours, but in moments of shared breath, of repetition, of care. Outside, the village is fully awake now. Smoke curls from chimneys, animals are fed, snow is pushed from paths, tools are repaired. There is no single bell that marks the hour, no rush to meet it. The work is not light, but it is constant, and it is shared. By midday, the light will stretch further across the fields, warming stones and softening ice. But for now, the world remains slow, muted, wrapped in the hush of habit. And inside one small cottage, a spoon is finished, a fire crackles, and a family moves together in rhythm, not to clocks, but to the quiet breath of winter's day. The morning grows brighter, yet never loud. It is not a jarring arrival, but a soft unfurling, like the slow blooming of a frost-kissed flower. The light has fully crept across the village now, gently kissing rooftops with a golden sheen and catching on the rimed edges of wooden fences and thatched eaves. The village is no longer asleep, but it does not rush. It hums. Footsteps mark paths across the frost-hardened earth, weaving between cottages like invisible threads in a tapestry of labor. The snow crunches softly beneath wool-wrapped boots. Scarves are pulled tight around faces. Woolen hoods and caps cover heads, and thick mittens cradle rough, calloused hands that have known cold before, and know it will come again. The day has begun not with haste, but with the surety of routine. This is not a world ruled by clocks, but by the rising sun, the scent of warming porridge, and the subtle cues of nature. A rhythm inherited, not designed. Outside the cottages, smoke drifts steadily from chimneys. It smells of birch and oak, of burning dung and straw, of a winter made livable by fire and persistence. Near the central path of the village, the well sees its first visitors. Women in woolen skirts, cloaked and kerchiefed, walk slowly with wooden buckets swinging at their sides. Their steps are deliberate, their balance careful. The ice at the well's edge glistens, treacherous and familiar. At the well, they exchange quiet greetings, nods, murmured words, nothing hurried. Conversation is not the point. The rhythm is. One bucket lowered, a creak of the pulley, the gentle splash of the bucket meeting cold water, then the slow, rhythmic turning of the winch, raising the weight inch by inch. Children begin to appear, blinking into the light, hair tousled, pulling cloaks tight. Some carry small baskets, tasked with gathering eggs from the hens or fetching firewood from the stacked bundles outside. Their steps are uncertain at first, but soon join the rhythm of the day. Laughter is rare in the cold, but not absent. A giggle at a sleepy chicken, a quiet snort at frozen fingers. Near the edge of the village, the blacksmith's forge stirs, not loudly, not with clamor, but with preparation. A soft clang as tools are laid out, the sound of bellows breathing life into coals. No fire roars yet, just embers waiting for the spark. Back in the cottages, the morning meals are simple. Porridge, slowly cooked with barley or oats, a touch of honey if luck has smiled, perhaps a few dried berries from the stores. Wooden bowls passed hand to hand, steam curling into the cold air. There are no forks, only spoons and fingers and practiced movements. The meals are quiet affairs. Children eat hungrily, adults steadily. There's no feasting, only fuel for the work ahead. Bread, rough and dense, is shared, dipped into broth or eaten with a pinch of salt. Teeth are used with care. Dental pain is common, and a lost tooth in winter is no small misfortune. After eating, the village divides like water, finding many paths. Some men move toward the forest's edge, where fallen branches and small trees wait to be hauled for firewood. Others begin repairs, mending fences that have leaned under the weight of snow, checking thatched roofs for leaks, ensuring the pig pen holds. Every action is necessary. Nothing is done for show. In one corner of the village, a woman stirs soap in a large wooden tub. Her sleeves are rolled to the elbows, hands red from cold. The lie stings faintly, but she does not flinch. The mixture must be stirred for a long while. She sings to herself under her breath, a lullaby more for her own rhythm than for any listener. In another home, spinning wheels begin to turn. Wool, carefully carded and cleaned weeks ago, is spun into thread. The sound is soft, a whir, a click, a hum. Fingers move with muscle memory. The work is quiet but essential. Each yard of thread means warmth later, in gloves and cloaks, in woven tapestries that cover drafty walls. The church bell rings once, not loudly. A soft toll, a reminder more than a command. Some villagers cross themselves, some pause their work for a breath. Faith is not shouted here. It is worn, like another layer, invisible but constant. A group gathers near the communal oven, a round domed structure shared by several families. Its door is opened, the coals banked. The smell of yeast and ash mingles in the air. A woman places her loaves inside, simple breads shaped by hand, marked with small slashes. Others wait their turn, chatting softly, comparing flour, dough, salt. Each loaf is a small triumph, a promise of another day sustained. By mid-morning, the snow has begun to melt just slightly in the sun's shallow warmth. Roofs drip slowly. Water traces down the grooves of wood and stone. Chickens scratch lazily in patches of thawed dirt. A dog naps in a patch of sunlight, one ear twitching at each footstep that passes. Inside the cottages, some elderly villagers remain by the hearths. Their hands, once busy, now rest in blankets. Their eyes drift to firelight, to the motions of their kin. They are still part of the rhythm, watchers, keepers of stories, holders of time. A boy carries a wooden pail of ash from the hearth and empties it near the compost heap. The ash will mix with soil, feed next year's garden. Nothing is wasted. Even waste has a role. And so, the village moves, not in haste, but in harmony. Like a wheel turning slowly, each spoke steady, each part essential. The world beyond the village may be wide, filled with castles and battles and kings. But here, in this quiet corner of history, life is built from repetition, from breath, from care. The sun, now at its modest height, casts long shadows. The day continues as it has for generations, as it will again tomorrow. The sun has passed its quiet peak, and its light now lengthens across the village, pouring through small windows like honey dripped slowly onto old wooden floors. Outside, the snow remains crisp in shaded places, but grows slushy where the light has lingered. Boots squelch faintly in the softening mud. A breeze, no longer sharp but still cool, whispers around the corners of cottages, tugging gently at shutters. By now, most outdoor chores have slowed. Tools are hung, sledges stacked, baskets emptied. The labor of the morning has earned its rest, and now the rhythm of the day draws inward, toward the hearth, toward warmth. Inside the cottages, fires have burned low and steady since morning. Their embers pulse, like quiet hearts, warm and unhurried. The rooms are dim, but not dark. Light filters through thick oiled parchment in the windows or narrow wooden slats, softened and golden. The air smells of wood smoke, of cooking onions and broth, of wool and bread, and life lived closely together. Children sit on low stools near the hearth. Their cheeks are pink, their fingers stained with soot or crumbs. They whisper games to one another, flick carved wooden tokens across worn boards, or shape small animals from lumps of leftover dough. Their laughter is muffled, intimate, the kind that fits neatly between the crackle of fire and the creak of old beams. Women sit in a loose circle nearby, baskets in their laps, hands occupied with mending, stitching, spinning. Fingers move deftly, untangling wool, knotting thread, adjusting worn cuffs. Conversation flows like a brook, meandering soft, punctuated by laughter or the cluck of tongues. Tales are shared, not news but memories, not drama, but the daily poetry of who visited last week, who burned the stew, who has a sore knee. The eldest woman in the room speaks little. Her voice is saved for times that matter. She mends a shirt with eyes half-lidded, humming an old song with no words. She has heard these stories before. Some of them she lived. She's not forgotten nor placed aside. She is the keeper of the needle's rhythm, of the room's center. In the corner, a pot simmers over the fire. Its scent is rich and earthy. Leeks, root vegetables, a bit of salted pork. A wooden ladle leans nearby, and from time to time, someone rises to stir the pot, to ensure nothing sticks. The soup is not for now, but for later. Still, its smell is enough to make stomachs whisper in anticipation. By the window, a boy traces a finger across the fogged pane. He draws a rough bird, then wipes it away. He watches the outside world with half-interest, eyes flicking to passing shadows or falling snow. The window is a frame for both longing and contentment. A girl nearby practices her letters on a wax tablet, the stylus clumsy in her small hand. Her father watches, nods once, and returns to carving a handle for a new spoon. The sound of the knife against wood is steady, rhythmic. Creation in miniature. In homes with more space, music stirs. A flute, soft and reedy, begins a slow tune. Somewhere, a drum is tapped gently with fingers. These are not performances, but extensions of breath. The way some people stretch or sigh. The sound fits into the cottage like another voice. A dog lies near the fire, nose tucked under paw. From time to time, it thumps its tail or huffs gently in sleep. A cat perches on the edge of a bench, eyes half closed, tail flicking in time with the firelight. Outside, a few villagers still move about. A young man carries a bundle of straw to the animal shelter, his arms wrapped tightly around it. A woman scrapes snow from the cottage threshold with a broom made of twigs. Another walks toward the oven again, checking her bread, the folds of her apron catching the wind. In this time of day, neighbors might visit. A soft knock on the door, a familiar face, a bowl carried with both hands. No announcements needed. A shared seat by the fire, a quiet exchange. Perhaps a cup of small beer or a piece of cheese. Talk flows, not in grand tales, but in shared experience. The weather, the wool, the latest goat to escape the fence. As the afternoon deepens, the light fades. The golden hues of midday give way to amber and then to blue-gray. Shadows stretch across the room. A candle is lit, then another. The fire's fed, logs shifting, spitting gently. The children grow quieter, their movements slow. Some rest their heads on laps, on folded cloaks, on the furry warmth of the dog. The rhythm of the room lowers, like a lullaby nearing its end. The stew is served in wooden bowls. Bread is broken. Eating is done with few words, not out of solemnity, but peace. Everyone is present. Everyone is warm. Even as the sky darkens, there is no rush, no urgency to chase the light. Night will come. It always does. And with it, rest. The cottages, each with its own fire, its own stories, its own rhythms, glow faintly now like lanterns across the village. From a distance, the windows flicker softly. The world outside grows quiet again, but inside, hearts are full. Bellies soon will be. And tomorrow, the wheel turns once more. The afternoon light, which had once stretched across the village with soft gold, has now begun to bend, to mellow, to dim. It is not yet dark, but the day is curling gently inward, like a leaf folding at dusk. Shadows stretch longer across the snow-covered paths. The air is still, thick with cold and quiet, and the sun has begun its descent beyond the distant trees, taking with it the last of the day's warmth. In the sky, faint hints of lavender and pale peach bleed into the western clouds. A hush settles over the village, not from absence of sound, but from a slowing of motion. The dogs bark less. The chickens retreat into their coops. The wind rustles with a softer hand. The people of the village feel the change instinctively. Afternoon tasks are brought to a close. A final piece of firewood is stacked. A tool is hung. A broom is leaned gently against a wall. The sounds become more muted. The gentle thump of boots on frozen ground. The creak of wooden doors closing. The soft knock of frost-covered mittens against the lintels as villagers brush snow from their hands before stepping inside. Within the cottages, hearths glow brighter. Flames lick the blackened stones, casting dancing shadows across the uneven walls. The smell of wood smoke becomes a familiar perfume. Pots bubble slowly over coals. Thick stews of root vegetables and dried meats, grains and bitter herbs that chase away the cold with each spoonful. Evening meals are quiet but communal. Wooden bowls and earthen mugs are passed, and the simple act of eating becomes a sacred daily ritual. There is a rhythm even to this. A ladle dipping, a spoon scraping, a sip from a mug, a shared glance. Candles are lit sparingly. Precious things made from tallow or beeswax, their wicks short, their glow warm and unsteady. Shadows flicker on faces, and eyes grow heavy in their dim halo. Children, full from the modest meal, curl near the fire. A few settle onto straw mattresses or woolen blankets. Others linger, listening as a parent hums a low song or tells a quiet story. Not with drama or flair, but as one passes on something treasured and true. These are not fairy tales with dragons or magic, but stories of their own kin, of hard winters long past, of animals saved, of neighbors remembered. The stories are spoken slowly, paced like footsteps through deep snow. Outside, darkness settles with a velvet touch. One by one, windows dim. The blue of twilight deepens into a heavy indigo, pierced only by the silver of starlight. Ice crystals form again on the edges of buckets and fence posts. The mill lies quiet once more, its great wheels still and rimmed with frost, waiting patiently for the next morning's hand. In one home, an elder mends a woolen glove by firelight, each stitch a meditation. In another, a mother carefully lays extra blankets over her sleeping children, tucking them with care, brushing a strand of hair from a forehead. A man places a small, flat stone, warmed in the fire, at the foot of the bed beneath the blankets, to offer a few hours of fading heat. The evening rituals are many, but none are hurried. A final log is added to the hearth. A wooden pail is filled with water and placed near the fire to keep it from freezing. A dog curls beside the door, his tail covering his nose. The night does not arrive all at once. It seeps in quietly, a slow tide rising around the village until all that remains is warmth behind thick walls and breath rising in cold air. The last sounds of the day are subtle. The creak of a settling roof, the sigh of someone laying down, the soft crack of firewood shifting, a muffled cough, the whisper of wool on straw, then silence. The village sleeps, and in that sleep, dreams unfurl like frost patterns across glass, slow, intricate, delicate. Some dream of warmth, of green meadows and full baskets, of laughter and springtime sun. Others dream of nothing, their minds emptying like the dark sky above, vast, quiet, and full of stars. Outside, the world holds its breath. The stream beside the mill moves still, but slowly, muffled beneath thin ice. The wind has stilled. Even the owls, for now, are silent. And so ends the day, not with a final note, but with a long, slow fading. A winter night in a medieval village, complete, undisturbed, held in darkness, cradled in quiet. The village now lies fully cloaked in night. Not just the early blue of twilight, but the full, thick ink of midnight. The last embers in the hearths burn low, and the smoky breath of every cottage mingles with the cold, still air above the rooftops. Frost has spread its delicate fingers across every surface, turning buckets and shutters into lacework sculptures of silver. And yet, for all this stillness, the world is not entirely at rest. In the narrow lanes between cottages, the snow crunches faintly as a cloaked figure makes their quiet way across the square. It is the watchman, an older man, shoulders hunched beneath a woolen mantle, carrying a small lantern with a swaying flame. His task is not to patrol against danger, but to ensure that no fire dies completely and no child cries unheard. He pauses outside one cottage, listening for long moments, then moves on, the rhythm of his steps slow and careful. Above him, the stars blaze undisturbed. No clouds veil the heavens tonight. The sky is wide open, an ancient ceiling of flickering light. In the sleeping houses, most are lost to slumber, but not all. Within one home, a woman stirs. Her baby shifts against her side, grumbling in its dreams. She listens to the wind, to the creak of the rafters, to the distant bark of a fox. Her eyes do not close again for some time. She's not troubled, but aware, tuned to the hour, the season, the dark. In another home, an elderly man lies awake, staring toward the ceiling. He counts his breaths. He remembers winters long past, the sound of his wife humming beside the fire, the smell of salt pork roasting, the way his daughter used to tuck her chin when she laughed. Memory's not bound by time. It wakes when it wishes. Outside, the trees rustle faintly, not with wind, but with life. A fox moves along the edge of the village, its feet near silent on the frozen earth. An owl shifts on its branch, large eyes blinking slowly. Somewhere, a deer noses through the snow near the tree line. The animals of the forest do not slumber as humans do. Their world is governed not by hearths and meals, but by hunger and instinct. And beyond that, still deeper in the forest, are the places where the villagers do not go after dark. Hollow hills, twisted trees, pools where no birds sing. The old stories live there, passed from mouth to mouth, shaped by the firelight and softened by the hush of bedtime. It is said that spirits drift closest on the coldest nights, that if you listen, truly listen, you might hear the whisper of a loved one past, or the cry of a lost soul still wandering. These tales are not told with fear, but with reverence. They are part of the fabric of winter, part of the reason why doors are locked and candles left burning through the darkest hours. The watchman returns to his own door at last. He shakes off the frost from his cloak and steps quietly inside. His own fire has not gone out. He adds a small log carefully and sits on a low stool to warm his hands. He will not sleep deeply tonight. He never does. And so the hours drift. Somewhere a dog barks once. Far away an owl calls. And slowly, gently, the black sky begins its quiet transformation. The first thread of silver rises over the distant hills. It is not dawn yet, not truly, but the night has passed its peak. And within that change, subtle and soft, the village breathes again. More are waking now, though they do not rise. They shift beneath blankets. They sigh. They listen. Children dream of warm bread, of sledding down hills, of snowflakes that never melt. Old ones dream too, of things lost and found, of faces, of voices that once spoke their name. The night is not empty. It is full of all the things the day forgets. And so it passes gently toward morning. The edge of morning is not a moment. It is a slow unveiling. The black sky has softened into a smoky blue. The stars, once bright like frozen sparks, begin to dim, withdrawing quietly as if embarrassed by the coming light. The earth holds its breath. Not quite night, not quite day. It is the in-between. A pale hush rests across the village. Before any rooster crows, before a single chimney smokes in earnest, the first souls begin to stir, not roused by clocks, but by instinct, by habit, In one cottage, a boy no older than 12 slips from beneath a woolen blanket. He moves carefully, not waking his younger siblings. The fire has died to little more than ash and ember. He uses the poker to stir life back into it, adding thin sticks of birch, careful not to let them crack loudly in the hearth. Light curls upward in the shape of flame. He watches until it takes, then places a small pot of water to warm, knowing it will be needed. In another home, a woman rises and wraps her shoulders in a shawl. She walks to the wash basin, dips her hands into icy water, and splashes her face. There is no mirror, only the routine. Her breath puffs faintly as she moves to gather kindling from a basket near the door. By the mill, the cottage chimney coughs out its first thread of smoke. Edric, already moving, kneels beside the hearth. He does not rush. He does not speak. He builds his fire with reverence, each log placed like a prayer. He sets oats in a clay pot, stirring them with a wooden spoon worn to a curve from years of use. The heat is low, slow. The scent of warm grain rises with the steam. Outside, frost still clings to the path, and snow glows faintly with the memory of moonlight. No birds sing yet. A dog lopes quietly from one yard to the next, sniffing the ground with practiced boredom. Its tail twitches, but it does not bark. The stillness is nearly total, yet it hums. Everywhere, doors creak open, not flung wide, but eased ajar. Eyes peer out, arms stretch stiffly. The day is not announced, it is accepted. A stable hand, half asleep, rubs his hands together and leans against a stall gate. The horse within snorts softly, sensing him. He mutters something low, soothing, and begins to scoop fresh straw into the trough. His boots leave shallow impressions in the frozen soil. Within the houses, woolen clothes are shrugged into, leather belts pulled through loops. Hands are rubbed together near firelight. A mother pulls socks onto her youngest's feet without fully waking her. This is not bustle. It is a kind of meditation. Somewhere, a small bell rings twice. Perhaps an old habit, perhaps to mark the time for prayers. It echoes faintly across the fields, softened by snow. The fire at the forge is being rekindled now. A middle-aged blacksmith crouches near the coals, coaxing them to life. Sparks flicker against the stone walls like golden insects. He hums tunelessly under his breath. In the bakery, a man with white hair pulls open the shutters. His eyes are puffy with sleep, but his hands move with long-practiced certainty. He kneads dough without thinking, his weight shifting with each turn. The oven is still cold, but not for long. At the well, two women greet each other with nods. No words yet. One lifts a bucket, the other rubs her arms against the chill. Their cloaks flutter slightly in a soft breeze, the kind that stirs nothing else but cloth and breath. The gray sky lightens. Smoke begins to rise in fine threads from more chimneys now, curling into the lightening air. Chickens mutter in their coops. A pig grunts. A man clears his throat behind a barn. It is not noise, it is awakening. Edric, seated by the mill window, eats from a wooden bowl. He watches the wheel through the glass. Still, but not for long. He will walk the path soon, check the channels, open the gate. But not yet. Not until the sky is fully blue. There is time. A girl carries a small basket of kindling to the neighboring cottage. She knocks, places it by the door, and walks away. Her gesture will be repaid in bread or soap or wool in the days to come. Nothing is wasted, nothing forgotten. A thin mist rises from the stream and drapes across the mill road. Footprints appear within it, one by one. It is morning, not fully formed, but here. And with it, the promise of warmth, of bread, of shared burdens. Another winter day is ready to begin. Sunlight has at last breached the eastern tree line, spilling like honey over the rooftops and into the narrow lanes of the village. Where there was gray mist, now there is soft gold. Chickens peck at patches of earth beneath snow-crusted straw. A rooster crows again, this time without urgency. The village is not bustling, not quite. It is humming, warmed into motion by custom and kindness. The baker's fire has been stoked to full flame, and the smell of bread begins to drift through the air. Sourdough, rye, and honeyed rolls, for those who bartered extra this week. People will pass by with smiles, some with hunger, most with gratitude. Warm bread in cold hands is a kind of blessing. Down the narrow lane, near a stone wall dusted with frost, two women stand with baskets balanced on their hips. One holds a swaddled infant. The other offers her a bit of cheese, crumbling it gently into the child's palm. They speak softly, but their conversation needs no volume. Their hands do much of the talking. Children in layered woolen tunics chase a stray cat near the well. The cat, gray and elegant, tolerates their game just long enough to show mercy, then leaps onto a fence post with a flick of its tail. The children collapse in giggles, their breath fogging in the cold. In front of the weaver's cottage, threads hang from a low beam, catching light like strands of sun. The old woman who tends them smooths each one with care. Her hands are knotted with age, but certain. She hums under her breath, a tune that no one else knows the name of, but everyone recognizes. A boy walks past with a small clay jug of milk, careful not to spill. His boots are too large, handed down twice, but they keep the snow off his feet. He delivers the jug to the door of an elder's home and does not knock. The gesture is enough. Inside the mill, Edric works with the rhythm of habit. The wheel outside now turns steadily, and with it, the stones inside hum their deep, circular song. He wipes down the wooden bench, prepares the sacks for the grain that will arrive soon. His fingers move with surety, like someone playing a familiar instrument. Not far from the mill, an older couple walks arm in arm toward the chapel. They speak little, stopping now and again so the woman can catch her breath. Her scarf is wrapped high. Her cane taps the road with every third step. The man adjusts the basket in his free hand. Inside, a folded cloth, a small loaf of bread, a winter apple, and a tiny flask of oil. An offering, a habit. A blacksmith's hammer rings once, just once. At the edge of the fields, smoke rises from a small fire where three men warm their hands. Their tools lie nearby, stakes and spades and mattocks waiting. They pass a flask quietly between them. One tells a story, the other two smile. No one interrupts. Snow melts slightly on the south-facing walls. A young woman crouches beside her front step, brushing soot from a small iron pot. Her dog sits beside her, tail thumping the ground with slow contentment. When she finishes, she pours water into the pot and sets it near the hearth. The rhythm of the morning is a conversation of gestures. Bread passed, paths cleared, wood chopped and stacked neatly against walls. No one speaks of chores. They are simply done. They are how love is shown, how survival is shared. In a cottage lit by amber sun, a mother braids her daughter's hair. The girl does not squirm. Her eyes are closed. She leans slightly into her mother's chest as the fingers work, slow and practiced. Outside the window, a line of smoke dances skyward. Further up the hill, where the wind bites more sharply, a shepherd waves to a boy tending geese. The sheep are restless, their breath heavy in the air. But he knows the routine. He lifts his staff, guiding them along the stone fence toward a patch of grass where the snow has thinned. In a narrow workshop, a candlemaker dips her threads again and again into melted wax. The rhythm is unhurried. She blows gently on one finished candle to cool its surface. Then she rests it on a wooden rack beside dozens of others, each at a slightly different height. Lunch is still hours away, but stews have already begun simmering. The air carries hints of sage and onion, of salted meat and parsnip. It is not enough to satisfy hunger, but enough to promise it will be met. At the schoolroom window, a bearded man writes with a reed pen. The ink freezes quickly on cold days. He works with gloves off, hands red and determined. The slate boards are still blank, waiting for pupils to arrive after morning tasks are done. Edric pauses outside the mill and watches his breath. The sky above is bright now, but the sun is still low. He hears footsteps on the road behind him. A neighbor. they greet with nods. No rush. There is time. And so, the village continues its quiet unfolding. The hour of labor is upon them, but it does not feel heavy. It is simply shared. And in that sharing, even winter feels lighter. Beneath the bright sky and between the visible tasks, there lies another world of quiet labor. Not every act of work is loud. Some are barely seen at all, yet their rhythms echo through every hearth and home. Behind the weaver's cottage, a young woman kneels by the garden beds, now dormant beneath snow. She knows where each herb once grew, where the roots lie still, asleep but not gone. With a gloved hand, she presses into the cold earth, testing its firmness. Nearby, bundles of dried rosemary and thyme hang from her porch beam, harvested months ago, but still fragrant. In the cold light, she lifts one bundle to her nose and breathes deeply. In a low, thatched building tucked behind the chapel, the village tanner works in silence. The smell here is not pleasant, acrid, sharp with lime and soaked hides, but his hands move with practiced gentleness. He stretches a skin over a curved frame, scraping slowly with a tool made of bone. His breath clouds before him. Few visit this place. But the shoes, the belts, the leather pouches, all trace back to this quiet corner. A little girl carries a bucket of ash from her family's hearth. She walks carefully through the yard and sprinkles the ash along a narrow path to keep the snow from icing. Her dog trots behind her. When she's finished, she kneels to pat the snow smooth with her mittened hands like smoothing a blanket. In the woodshed, a man works alone. His axe rises and falls in steady motion. Each split log is stacked with care, end to end, until the wall is waist high. He stops now and then to stretch his back, to sip from a flask, to glance toward the pale sun that offers no warmth. The scent of fresh split wood lingers, clean and sharp. Not far off, inside a shadowy cottage, an elderly woman sorts dried beans by lantern light. Her fingers are gnarled but quick. She hums a tune as she works. Some of the beans are for planting come spring, carefully saved. Others will be stewed in tomorrow's meal. A bowl of cracked ones sits beside her, destined for the chickens. In a dim stable, the breath of animals fogs the air like steam. A boy moves among them, brushing hides, refilling hay, whispering to each in turn. The cows blink slowly, chewing. The goats nuzzle the boy's sleeves. He stops by a donkey, pressing his cheek to its neck. No one has asked him to do this. He simply does. In one cottage, a woman turns fleece into thread. The wool, washed and combed, lies in a basket beside her. She spins with a drop spindle, fingers nimble and sure. Her eyes rarely lift. The thread forms long and thin, winding itself slowly onto the spindle's shaft. Nearby, a kettle simmers. A man kneels near a wall, fixing a broken hinge. He says nothing, but when he's done, he lifts the latch and nods once to himself. The door no longer creaks. Two children build a small shelter of sticks in the woods, not far from the path. They pretend it is a fort, a place to escape the world. But the way they layer the branches, the way they dig a shallow trench around it to keep water out, suggests they know more than their game reveals. Perhaps they have seen real shelters built in leaner winters. Or perhaps memory passes quietly between generations. Inside the chapel, the candle flames barely flicker. A woman kneels alone, her cloak drawn tight, hands folded. She does not speak. Her prayer is a silence shaped by thought. Behind her, in the corner, someone else sweeps with slow strokes, careful not to disturb her. Back in the square, a young man sharpens a sickle against a whetstone. Though the fields lie frozen, the blade must be ready. He tests the edge with a finger, then wraps the tool in cloth and sets it aside. A neighbor watches and nods. Nothing is said. But in the nod is a shared understanding. Even now, even in the stillness, there is work. There is always work. It need not roar to be real. It need not be seen to matter. And so, beneath the snow, beside the fires, behind doors that remain closed to the wind, Life is held up by 1,000 small tasks, each one done by hands that remember, that care, that shape the winter into something survivable, something human. The sun is long gone now. In the western sky, its memory lingers as a pale blush, quickly swallowed by the deepening blue of night. Snow glows faintly in the moonlight, smooth and undisturbed in places where no footfalls reach. The village is quieter than it has been all day, not silent but hushed, like the pause between lines of a lullaby. Inside cottages, candles are lit. Each flickering flame draws halos on wooden walls, softening the edges of the world. The long shadows cast by hearth fires dance slowly across floors, up beams, and into the gentle curve of thatched ceilings. Edric sits near his hearth, the day's last chores completed. His boots rest beside the fire, damp leather steaming faintly. In his hands, a small cloth sack of dried lavender, a bit of peace he tucks into the corner of his bed each night. He does not speak. There is no one to speak to just now. Only the crackle of wood and the distant bark of a dog breaking the stillness. In another cottage, a mother soothes a child with a lullaby passed down from her grandmother's lips. The tune loops gently, wordless at times, the kind that wraps around a child's mind like a warm shawl. Her hand strokes the boy's hair as he drifts, eyelids fluttering in the firelight. A candle burns low on a windowsill. Outside, the frost creeps up the glass like lace. The schoolmaster closes his ink bottle, setting his pen carefully beside it. The ledgers are complete, the lessons prepared for tomorrow. He stands and stretches, back cracking quietly, and crosses to his hearth to warm his hands. The coals are low but still bright. In the small chapel, a single flame remains, the sanctuary candle. It burns steadily as it always does, even when no one watches, especially then. Edric leans back in his chair, eyes soft. He thinks not of tomorrow, but of years ago. A winter much colder than this, when the wheel froze in place and the river ceased to flow. He remembers the silence of that time, how each breath felt sharp and sacred. He remembers his father's voice telling him, "Even frozen things move eventually." The memory lingers, warming him more than the fire. Elsewhere, lovers share a quiet conversation beneath shared blankets. Their words are not urgent. They speak of the past, of dreams, of nothing at all. A fire pops. The wind brushes gently at the shutters, but they are latched. Inside, all is safe. Outside, an owl glides silently from one post to another. Beneath it, mice scurry beneath snow and straw. Life continues in the dark. In the weaver's home, the loom is covered with cloth. The old woman sits beside it, sipping something warm. Her cat curls at her feet, tail flicking once before settling. She hums a tune that no longer needs words. Far up the hill, the shepherd checks his flock once more before bedding down. His lantern casts a golden cone of light that rocks with each step. The sheep are still. The stars are bright above him, clustered like spilled grain. Inside every cottage, routines unfold like poetry. A pair of hands folds a shirt near the fire. A ladle dips into a pot for one final taste. A broom leans against the door. A chair creaks, empty, for now, but waiting. In one home, a man closes the shutters and fastens them with a small carved wedge. He runs his hand across the frame, checks the lock, then lets out a breath he did not know he was holding. The embers are glowing now, soft and orange, deeper than flame. They do not crackle anymore. They simply breathe, a warm, pulsing light in a world gone blue. Edric lays his blanket over himself. He lies on his side, back to the door, one hand tucked beneath his cheek. In the stillness, he can hear the wheel outside slowing, not stopping, just easing its pace. Even the water rests. And in this resting, the village breathes. Not all sleep, but most. And those who remain awake do so quietly. The stars shine above. The night deepens. And another winter day has ended, not with noise, but with hush. A hush wide enough to hold every dream,